And this week we're featuring Suzie Seerey-Lester. I've known Susie and her husband John for, I was trying to remember earlier today, but it's been a long time. And both Susie and John are really talented artists. And John's recent passing hit us all. And Susie agreed to take us on a little tour of her studio and also show us some of the way she works, which many of you may not know how she works, but if you look at Susie's artwork on a number of different sources, you will begin to see that she's really fabulous painter. And the one thing I like about I like Susie's ideas that she comes up with for her paintings. She has some fabulous ideas, just the look or the twist that she gives a subject. But Susie has a very colorful history as well, but we won't go into that today. But without further ado, here's Susie direct from Florida.
Hi guys, thank you first of all for sharing part of your busy day. I know how tough it is to block an hour or so out of your time, so thank you. And what I would like to do is take you on a tour of our studio. So I'm going to walk around and show you what we've got. John's area. This is the last painting he was working on. His palettes down there. You can see some of the props. We have bison horns. And the way John would work is he would use his iPad where I use photographs, so it's a little bit different. Now we had a flood in here the other day. Hold on 1 second.
Hey, Susie.
Yes, I'm gonna.
Hold on 1 second. We're getting a harsh feedback here, Anthony. What do you think we can do about that?
I think she did something about it already,
Okay.
but I think she turned off her speaker. She did. Hold on. Where are you?
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Okay. I haven't really touched John's area at all. You can see his brushes here. And the reason he has so many brushes is so people would believe that he was a real artist. We had a flood in here the other day, so most of our paintings are not here, are pieces to be worked on. So these are just some of the things that he had lying around. He's obviously doing a piece on the penguins, so he pulled out some of his penguin reference when he was down in Antarctica. And there's a fox. And this was just a little study that he did. And John would put all his references. Can you see all the photographs we've got here?
Hey, Susie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Susie, hold on. Anthony, do you think it's that the sound is on her computer?
It's the iPad. It's speaking out.
Okay, let me mute the iPad. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Way better.
Good. Now, why is it doing? No, it's got. Oh, it's all on the computer. Oh dear. Well, I'll fix that in a second. This is my area.
Oh,
That's awful, isn't it? That better? No. Okay, I'm gonna move the computer for a second. You can look at that while I,
Mute this. Unmute your iPad.
okay. But now I'm not getting,
talk amongst yourselves.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Actually, yes.
Okay, maybe you could ask Susie for me then. There doesn't appear to be any external light source like windows or anything. And so I'm just wondering, are those all color corrected lights in the studio? Because I know that's so important for colors, right? So if you could ask. Thank you.
Susie, you need to unmute your iPad.
computer.
There we-
There's the computer. Okay. We do use the OT lights, and the lights, let me go. Sorry.
What is, she's got feedback again.
Well, she got the sound on the computer and on the iPad.
Yeah.
So one of them's got to go off.
Okay. I'm going to turn it off on the computer. Oh.
See, now we can't hear her. It does it again.
Now can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay. I'll leave it. That's the iPad then.
that's what we thought would be best. Okay.
So Christine, yes, they are all daylight bulbs. Both the LEDs above us and the lights in the fan. And then we use the OT lights above the paintings that are color corrected. So when we're photographing everything, we've got all the color, the daylight bulbs on, so that we do get the proper color. Okay, is that helping?
You sound great. You're doing better. Yeah.
You can see we have props all over the place. There's a bison skull. We would hang paintings on the bookshelves. So these are paintings that he was working on. Well, these are all finished pieces. You can see all the books that we have. We are bookaholic. And then this is something kind of unique. These are all his field studies. So they're, well, at least half of them, pieces that he did in the field. That one's from China. This was on our trip to Glacier. So we've got, that's Maine. We've got hundreds of these field studies that are studio. Are you guys seeing these okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what John would do is, that's funny, he would paint on location and then he would come back and take a reference and make a painting from it. So we've got hundreds of these. Some are more complete than others. Some are in acrylic, some are in oil. There's penguins. So this is basically John's area. our references are in a lot of cardboard boxes. You can see the photographs that we have. Oh, that's a nice one. John would take them out, and they're all categorized so that you can easily look for a jaguar or you know, a leopard when all his stuff wasn't on top of everything. We watch TV all the time. It's on. And then this is my area. So we both have the Hughes easels that go up and down with the touch of a finger and sideways. And they also open up for bigger paintings. And then I have a few pieces that I'm working on here. There's some eagles and just pieces that are what we may call as garage paintings, or they're not finished. As we work, here's one of John's. And then we'll just have references everywhere. There's a snow reference. Started on a L that I didn't finish. This is one of John's demos. An owl demo. This is a really old piece of mine that I'm going to fix. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. So we just have a lot of these sitting around waiting for us to do something. That may have been used as a demo. I'm going to put a fox in this one. There goes the pile. And then this is where we store our photographs that we're not using right away. So this file cabinet and the one next to it are all full of photographs. So they're all alphabetical: barns, cats, cheetahs, bears.
What kind of boards were those, Susie?
I'm sorry?
What kind of boards were the studies done on?
They're on masonite. They're on paper that's applied to the back of hardboard. So it could be just plain paper as well. So it depends. We'll paint on anything. Going around, you can see some of the props that we have back here. The moose antlers, a turtle, ropes, irons, and all sorts of unique things. And then we have a tall floor here that's filled with, can you see them? Filled with drawings that he did. This was a proposal. Somebody wanted the Lincoln Memorial. Can you guys see these okay?
Yeah.
So he did one of the Lincoln Memorial. The guy didn't buy it, so that was the end of that. But this whole drawer is filled with sketches and ideas that he had. This whole cabinet. So you can see, this looks like it's acrylic on paper. That is from Spain, and that looks like it's acrylic on paper. So we have drawers just full of ideas and paintings and sketches. So again, he would use these as reference. He painted this little orangutan in the San Diego Zoo, and he used this later on as a reference for a little piece he did on orangutan. So some of them have, these are all sketches, some of them have little things that he he said. In this one, it says a monitor lizard hiding from the male lion in Masai Mara, Kenya, field sketch from our vehicle at 9 a.m. So you can see the little lizard there. So we have tons of these. Here's a leopard. I forgot we have these. This one, is from Birds and Art. So these are memories to go through. Oh, this is one of my favorites. This is from Africa. There was a den of hyenas in the rock. So we will do pieces like this while we're on location, come back, store them, and then when we think about it, we'll come back and maybe use it as a reference. Here's an oil on a piece of canvas of a moose. Here's a study of a mountain that he did, oil on canvas. Or it could be something as simple as a pen and ink on paper. So we've got these drawers and drawers just filled with ideas and sketches.
Hey, Susie,
Yes.
I have a question, and that is, creatively, you're there working, he's there working, and were you affected by each other's creative direction? For instance, if he's struggling with a big moose composition, did you gravitate towards moose paintings yourself, or completely the other way?
Completely the other way. He painted the big mammals, and he was trying to encourage me to do more big mammals. But he was so well known for that that's what he enjoyed doing. But sitting next to each other and painting all day long was really exciting, because we could talk about color, we could talk about composition. I could see things on his paintings that he couldn't see. Maybe something was not in perspective, that he just, for some reason didn't see. And then he could do the same with me. He'd, look over and say, oh, you need to check your reference. That wing isn't right. Or your values are off. Check your values again. Check your reference. So it was wonderful to work together, because what an education. And normally artists are so singular. We are in our studios by ourselves, and we don't have anybody to bounce things off of.
Right.
So the other day I was painting, and I was looking for a reference because I wanted to do something for today. And this owl fell out of the box. So I knew John was telling me, okay, you got to paint this owl for this group. So that's, he does that to me all the time. It's surprising. He's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. So again, references, funny story about the snowshoes. John was doing a painting about Teddy Roosevelt being chased by a bear. And he didn't have any reference to the snowshoes in the snow. So he took these snowshoes down to the beach and walked on the beach. And unfortunately, it doesn't work on the beach. I found that out. Here's another painting that he started on. Obviously, it's the bison, and he's going to have one coming at you. It will probably stay this way. And up on top, you can see all these Seerey-Lester binders. We used to photograph everything and put it on slides. So those are all of finished pieces, field studies, and they're divided by species. And then, of course, we have more and more and more books, and boxes full of sketchbooks. Am I going too fast?
No.
Okay, more books. These are first edition books and sketchbooks, and unfortunately we had a flood and we need to replace the bookcase. And then this is another area of places where we put field studies that are on paper. It's just another cabinet that houses field studies. And sometimes what John would do is he would do a thumbnail, and this is, he actually finished the painting similar to this, and it's in the book. And it's already been sold. So we have tons of, it could be oil or acrylic on paper. Here's one of sketches that he did of TR and Churchill that he wanted to put in the book, and unfortunately that didn't happen. So, so this is basically our studio. We have cases of books, obviously crates, boxes of paintings, and all of our books. So this is basically how we work. Does anybody have any questions so far? No questions. All right, I'm going to put the computer down and go over to the iPad. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Now, what we would do when we would think of a painting or come up with an idea is we have sketchbooks that are filled with ideas, and I'm sure you've seen some of John's sketchbooks. But what we would do is thumbnail drawings. Okay, this one is otters, which I've got back there, didn't finish it. So I had them in different positions. And you can see I cut the panel down. So I was trying to find out what would work and what would not. This is owls in, tropical leaves. This is Thunder Rolls. This was one of the paintings that I finished last year with a barn and the heavy clouds in the back. And by doing these thumbnails, you can design your painting better. You can figure out, okay, this is going to work, or no, this doesn't work. Totem pole with a raven on it. Don't like it, didn't like it, so this one's not going to be done. This is sandhill cranes flying in. Can you see them okay?
A little closer. Yeah, that's better.
There we go.
There's another thumbnail of the Twilight Landing. And sometimes we'll write the name of the painting on the sketchbook or on the sketch, pad. It's called Splash. It's wood storks taking a bath. So I've got the photo reference of that. This was another, let's see if I've got here's the photograph and the thumbnail sketch. I wanted to have this calm water behind the ibis, so that's to be done.
Question from Christine Knapp. Want to know, you think John wants you to finish his paintings?
Yeah, he probably does. He probably does. That might happen, it might not. We'll see. We'll see. But I've got to make sure that I do a good job for him. So that's I'll think about that. I'll think about that. So what I wanted to paint today was this little owl. It's an African fishing owl. So I have the photograph that we took in Africa, and I just kind of sketched it out to see if the composition would be right. And you can see from the photograph, there's a tree that comes behind it and a tree that comes around it, and it just leaves a big circle where the owl is, and that's very uninteresting, and it's almost like painting the owl in the middle of the painting. It doesn't work. So I'm just having the one branch go by as opposed to making it enclosed within the painting. We use the Richardson hardboards, the masonite. We prefer the gray pieces. And the reason for that is you can see your values right off the bat. You're not fighting the white of the white if you're using, just a gesso board. So you can get your values quicker and easier. We also use the Richardson gray paper palettes for the same reason. You can see your values right away. So it's just masonite, and then what we'll do is I'll coat the masonite with another coating of gray mix. And this is our own gray mix, and it's equal parts of Payne's gray, ultramarine blue, and burnt umber. You mix it together, and then you add gesso to it until you get the value that you want. And then we just keep pots of this next to our easels. After we've painted the panel again, you can use it as an eraser. So if you've done something that you don't like, you just wipe it out with the same gray mix that you did on your panel. So it's easy to see things appear and disappear.
Hey, Susie, do you work in both? Do you work in both acrylic and oil?
Yes. It depends on what the subject is, whether it's going to be oil or acrylic. If it's going to be soft and subtle, then it's going to be acrylic. The night scenes are going to be acrylic, and I'm going to make this owl a night scene for you. If it's vibrant color, for example, I did a scarlet ibis, which is bright red. I did that in oil because you get much, a better range of colors, and they're more acute and, interesting. So it depends on what you're doing or what I'm doing, if it's going to be oil or acrylic or watercolor. Basically, the watercolors are just in the sketchbooks and things like that. Another thing we'll do is we'll cut paper to paint on, and then this is like a leftover piece. So what I do a lot, you can see we got lots of little leftover pieces. I'll do a little painting as a bookmark and give it away as a Christmas present. So that's a fun thing to do.
Nice.
I want a bookmark. Oh, she left.
I wanted to show you another thing of John's. This is why we would cut the paper. So here's an example of a sketch that he did, but he would bind them. Can you see that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So this is in a binder, and he would, this one's heavy. Now this is oil on paper. This is Yusepa Island, where we got married after the hurricane. So he could keep these in a binder. That's the hermit's location. God, it's heavy. So it could be just a study of a rock, or there's a wood pile and he had chipmunks running in and out. It could be just pen and ink or just pencil. So in this one, he got sprayed by the jaguar. The jaguar didn't like him, so this is urine spray all over him. And there's a little creature. So again, these are quick, fast studies. They may be acrylic, they may be oil, but they're later used sometimes in a painting. He did a painting of this, but he made it a male moose instead of a female moose. Can everybody see that?
Sure.
So, and they're beautiful little, studies. And he would take these out in the field, a pad of paper between two pieces of masonite, and spend a couple hours. And it's a lot easier to carry the paper out than it is to carry a bunch of masonite, and it's not as heavy. And then he'd come back and put them in these binders later on. So that's an idea for people as well. Get rid of that one. So we have quite a few of those. And then I like to photograph stuff. He could sit there and sketch a leopard jumping from tree to tree. I'm not quite that fast in sketching, so I take photographs. We only use our own reference. We don't go on the internet to use anybody else's reference. So I love to paint owls. These are all copyrighted, you guys. You can't steal them. This is going to be a painting one day. And they're just, I have files of great grays, files of sandhill cranes, spoonbills. So what I do is I have folders that I put all of these paintings in. So, or photographs in, so I can find the reference that I need right away. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and lay out my palette, and I'll show you what the palette is. I'll bring this closer. So basically, the way I set the palette out, and both John and I would do this, we start with Payne's Gray, Ultramarine Blue, and Burnt Umber. That makes our darkest dark. We don't use black. And it also makes our gray mix when we add gesso to it. So that's our darkest darks. Then we have Raw Umber, Transparent, and Raw Umber Opaque. Golden makes a opaque raw umber. Winsor Newton makes a transparent raw umber, and I use more transparent than I do opaque. So you have to kind of understand the manufacturers and what they make. I use transparent red oxide as opposed to burnt sienna because it's more transparent. Raw sienna is very transparent. Yellow ochre is very opaque, as well as Naples. Then cad red and cad yellow. I don't always put them out. And then on the top of the palette, I have 3 different grays, and these are true grays, so I can mix them with yellow and not get a green.
Nancy asked a question. I don't understand it. Binder tape glued?
Say again?
Binders taped glued? Question mark.
I don't understand the question.
Okay.
Are the binders taped or are they
I
glued?
see.
Oh.
No, the binders actually have a screw through them, so they've got holes at the top, 2 holes at the top, and then you can adjust the screw height.
Then you
So
can add more pieces of
add
paper
more.
as you go. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I have 3 grays, and then I have a dab of the gray mix that I use as an eraser. Then I have 2 gessos. This is in acrylic. 2 gessos, 1 to stay pure white and 1 to mix. And then if I'm doing a lot of values, I will have alizarin and viridian, which makes a magic color, which is kind of a unique color, which I'll show you guys. We use the same colors in oil or acrylic. The only difference is it's not gesso, it is titanium white. So it's the same palette for both oil or acrylic. And our watercolors are the same. So we use the same thing over and over. Okay, does that make sense? Can everybody see it? Okay, what I did was a thumbnail of this little owl. And then I kind of sketched it out just roughly on the gesso panel. I can start to work on it. So give me a second and I'm going to lay out my panel or my palette. If anybody has any questions, please ask while I do this. Any questions? No? Okay.
I've seen a lot of your bird paintings over the years, Susie, and would you consider yourself more of a bird person?
Yes, I love painting owls and barns. So I would say yes, I gravitate more to the birds than I do to the tigers, for example. Although I've painted tigers and snow leopards and big cats, but I'm like you, David. I like birds.
Now, do you have lots of different shots of? I mean, I can visualize paintings of yours that are barns, from the outside looking at the whole barn, or the outside looking at just one door or one window, or you're inside the barn looking out, or you're inside the barn looking at a crack in the planking where the lights coming through, and the owl is flying across or perched or whatnot. And do you have all these? I envision you've got 100 different pictures of barns.
Yes, thousands of pictures of barns. We were at a wedding that was on this plantation, and I'm crawling inside the barns that they had to get photographs. And at SKB, there's so many cool barns there that I, as many references as I can get for different types of barns. That's what I want to do. Another cool color that I didn't put on the palette is shadow green. It makes a wonderful shadow, especially with plants in the background. So that's one of my pieces. So. What I'll do also is when I start a painting, I'll put all the colors that I'm going to use in a specific basket. So I'm not going through basket by basket trying to figure out, what color am I going to use this time.
Do you like painting in the morning, the afternoon, evening, or late at night?
I like painting in the morning and the afternoon. We paint generally about 10 hours a day. Although I walk the beach every morning, so I don't get back home sometimes until 9 o'clock. And then I take care of the business aspects. So sometimes I don't even start painting until about noon. So then I'll paint for, at least 6 or 7 hours until the dogs make me go up and feed them. So there are alarm clocks. We don't paint at night that much. It just, I don't know. I guess I'm turning into an old fart and I have to go to bed. So,
Marcy Berry is asking, what kind of brand of acrylics do you use?
I've got a couple different. What I like are the Winsor Newton professionals. I have to order them. I can't get them from the local store. So I find the color is best with the Winsor Newton. It stays light fast. I can depend on if it's going to be an orange, it's going to be an orange. It's not going to be something different. For example, golden, I do use a lot of golden because they have some that are transparent. And you can see in this case, it's transparent red iron oxide. You can see that this is transparent because you can't see through it. Where, for example, this is not transparent. This is opaque. Does that make sense to everybody? So I use the Winsor Newton transparent ones and I use the golden opaque for some things. For example, raw umber is a great golden opaque. Their Payne's gray is blue, so I don't use Golden's Payne's gray. I use Winsor Newton on that. But everything else is basically Winsor Newton, unless it's something unique like the shadow green, which is Holbein. And I'll have a special color maybe for the ibis, like the Swan Brilliance. That's Holbein. So that's basically. But Winsor Newton's Payne's gray, for example, is very transparent. So I prefer this, again, over the golden. Golden is very blue. So when you mix their Payne's gray, it could change the color instead of graying it off, if that makes sense. Okay. I lay out all the colors, even though I may not use them, because then I don't have to go searching for.
A message deleted. Inbound messages.
I may not put out the cad red and the cad yellow, or the things like orange or something like that, unless I have something very specific in the painting. Okay. All right, almost done. Now, the reason I use the neutral grays, if I want to push something back, I can start by mixing the value that I want, or the color that I want, with the neutral gray. And I'm not changing the color of the paint. I'm just graying it off. Okay, I'm going to bring my computer over and show you my palette again. Okay, there's my palette laid out. And then I will start, I'll have the brushes laid at the side here that I'm going to use over and over. Okay, does that help?
Marcy Beer is also wondering what the palette surface is that you're using.
That's a good question. It is a paper palette. It is the Richardson gray palette. We have them in different sizes, so depending on you know, the space that we have. We originally got these glass tops to our palettes and painted the gray mix underneath so that we could use the palettes as, you know, the glass as our palettes. It was just a pain in the butt to clean them all the time. And it's hard to transport your glass palette around with you, and these paper palettes are wonderful. So the palette underneath the paper palette is glass painted with the gray mix underneath it. Okay.
Cool.
So what I do is I start with the darkest dark. So I actually start with the eyes first. I'm going to take this photograph up so you can see what I'm doing. I measure the little guy that I'm painting. So you can see, you know, I'll measure, you know, from the eye to the, you know, top of the tree, so that when I get the final sketch, it's proportionally correct. I use a ruler, you know, that comes in handy all the time. And I'm going to put my paper. Now, because I'm doing acrylic and I've got just charcoal, I have fine charcoal that I've sketched the owl and the branch out on. it lifts very easily and very quickly, so I don't have to worry about messing up the painting. So it's just going to be a quick block in of what the bird looks like here. The beauty of painting in acrylic is if you are doing it transparent, and you can see this is very transparent, and you can actually see through my paint to the sketch below to make it simple and easy. And you can build up the paint using transparent paint. So it's layer upon layer upon layer to make it so you guys see paint dry. I'm mixing on the palette the different, in this case, it is transparent raw umber and white to go around the eye a little bit here, just to fix it up. And then I'm going to add, once I'm happy with this, and this is just a quick demo, I'm not going to finish it completely, but I'm going to show you how to do it at night. So it won't be a completed painting, it's just a quick demo for you. I have a water pot, which is like a little brass bucket that I use to paint with. Please ask questions. If anybody has anything I can tell you.
Don't forget to unmute yourself to talk or hold the space bar so you can give Susie the question. I like how you miss the paintings and get the wall a lot.
Did I get the what?
You get your easel a lot. I like how you paint your easel a lot.
Oh, well, this easel is open, and so we have to have the pegboard or the paintings will fall through, especially if they're small. So when we gesso the paintings, you can see sometimes it gets on the back of the panel, which it's just, you know, kind of makes it different and unique. It's fun. So I'm following the photograph to some extent, but I'm going to make changes and do things the way that I want. You have to follow the anatomy, you have to understand the anatomy, and you have to make sure that it's correct. So if you haven't seen an animal in the wild, you don't necessarily know what they look like or how they react to certain things. So it's really important to learn what the animals look like and paint things that you understand and that you've seen. Oh, this is just, this guy was looking down on us.
At this stage in your painting, would you work with a particular brush for most of it?
Yes, there's two brushes that I'll use for the fine detail. It's a small round, and we don't care who the manufacturer is. It's just, does it work or does it not work? And then most of the rest of the painting will be done with something called a rake. This is our favorite brush, and depending on the size of the piece, we have different size rakes. So we've got really big ones around here somewhere. But the nice thing about the rake, you can see it on this one, the tip is kind of cut down. So when you make fine lines with this, you can really control the paint And you can actually make a finer straight line with a rake than you can with a round. So once I get little details in, I'll switch to the rake, which is my favorite brush. Definitely the favorite brush. So I'm not doing a lot of detail. I'm just going to quickly put in some of the feathers here that I see. And you're looking underneath the feathers. So they don't want to look like roof tiles. You want to actually see sometimes underneath. And they're not perfect either. So.
Hey, Susie, at this point, can you lift that, can you pick that up, that panel, and bring it over right to the camera so we can see where you are at this point? A little closer.
Okay, you can see my under sketch.
Yeah.
And then the slight drawing, the acrylic that I've put on it, but it's still very, very transparent. Okay. And the sketch isn't tight and detailed, it's loosely drawn in. I will tighten it up as I paint on it.
Cool.
Okay. That also, if you're so locked into the drawing that it has to be absolutely perfect, then you don't have any spontaneity. And unfortunately, with wildlife, if it's not spontaneous, it looks fake. So you want to have things, you don't want straight lines, and you don't want it absolutely perfect. At least I don't. I would rather have it look more real than not. You can hear the dogs upstairs. We live in a stilt house, so our studio is downstairs where it does flood, and we live upstairs. And when we saw this house, they brought us in downstairs first, and they had all these built-in bookcases, and of course we love books. And so John looks around and he says, well, I sure hope the upstairs is okay, because this is a perfect studio. We'll buy it. So that's how we got this house, a perfect studio.
Marcy wants to know if you work on the subject before the background, or do you do the background and then the subject, or vice versa?
Good point. I'll block in the subject, and then I will bring the background into the foreground. Because I'm working in acrylic can be very hard. You get hard edges, especially if you're not using transparent. So once I start doing the background, I will bring it into the bird itself, or whatever the object is, and it makes it softer, and it makes it look like it's actually sitting in the proper environment. So let me do a few more, and then I'll start doing some of the background as well. So I don't do a lot of detail on the animal first, or bird, before I start with the background, because you want to make it look like it's in the background, not sitting on top of the background. And unfortunately, with a lot of acrylics, it looks like if people don't know how to blend the background into the foreground, it makes it look like the animal is pasted on top of the background. So we don't want to do that.
And Christine Damp is wanting to know, when you get further into the painting, do you begin to add more impasto textures and
Yes.
build up the thickness of the paint?
Not necessarily the thickness, because I'm doing this in transparent, but I may put as many as 100 layers of paint in an area just to get the depth that that I want with it. So it's layer upon layer, and the more you do that, it becomes more opaque, but you can still see through it, if that makes sense. So with the acrylics, I don't make it thick. With the oils, I do. So again, it depends. If you want to have chunky snow, for example, I would probably do that in oil, because then I can get chunky snow by building up the oil. If you want soft snow, then acrylic is better, because it blends, or you can make it blend and make it feel soft. Also on masonite, you get a lot of hard edges. With canvas and acrylic, you get softer edges because there's more texture to it. So sometimes we will texture the board itself when we do that, if we want. Now, another thing that we have found is we do masonite up to 24 by 36. Anything after that, it's too heavy to hang on the wall. So, especially with the frames that we use. Now you can see this is all very, very transparent so far. I'm going to change that in a second. Now, one thing I do with when I'm painting branches is I will I want to make sure that they're in perspective. So to make things go away or come close, I will do, perspective rings around things to make sure that it will work. And because it's acrylic, I can blend them in easily.
And you say you get softer edges working with acrylic than you do in oils.
No, not necessarily. You have to work at it to get soft edges in acrylics. And, that's critical when doing the background. Because acrylics are plastic, they're inherently very hard edges. Oils you can blend easily, they stay wet longer. So that's important to me as well. Now I'm going to do some of the background. I'm going to cheat and use some premix. I'm using sap green right now. Winsor Newton sap green. And what I'm going to do is I'm mixing the sap green with a medium value gray. So because sap green can be a screamer, I want to make it a softer color. So I'm going to just do a haphazard background here because I'm going to change it all into night in a bit. So you can see, again, I'm not careful about the edges. I want it to be haphazard because it's haphazard in nature. And if I want to add a little bit more value, I can in some things. And I will actually, you can see where I'm bringing some of this color over the edge of the bird. And I can still see my underpainting, but that kind of softens the edge and allows me to bring the background into the foreground. Because I do this transparently, again, it's really hard. I also keep it very wet. And I want to show you something with this. Now, let's say you have a design down at the bottom here, and it's a mistake, or God, you don't like it, it's ugly, or, you know, it's not working. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to show you what we do to get rid of it. So you can see already that this is beginning to take shape. And even when it's wet, I can go in and get rid of some of the mistakes that I've made. That got a little heavy-handed with the paint spray.
Now it looks to me like you're resting the palm of your hand edge on the actual painting, are you?
Yes, I do have a mall stick somewhere. John stole my last one, so I'm gonna have to go over there and find it. I will rest my hand on the painting or on the board. Use a mall stick. It just depends on you know, where things are. Now, this is an old rake, so it's not doing as good a job as one of the newer ones, so I may switch over in a second. But I like to add texture and spots and what you would see in nature. And because I'm doing it again transparently, every time I go over this, it will add another dimension to the painting. I'm using a little bit of Naples and CAD, or Naples and gesso. And because this brush is worn, you can see I'm not getting real straight lines, which I don't want. I just want some texture in here. And once I cover it up, it will make a difference. I'm going to add some light to the bird. This is where it helps to have really good references, so you can see where you want to add your light or change your light. Another thing that we do, which I think is important for people to see, we use a simple flashlight, and you can decide on how you want to have the light hit your subject. Do you want it from above? Do you want it from the side or underneath? So you can change the actual photograph. And in this case, you can see I'm taking the flashlight and I'm putting it behind the bird so I can change how the light appears in the photograph. And I can decide to change it if I want. You just have to understand the principles of light, that it doesn't bend, it's always in a straight line. Does that make sense?
Call from 85523.
I didn't hear that.
That was somebody's phone ringing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it was.
That was a call wanting to know if you'd like to change your Google listing.
Oh, no. No. Okay, now I don't like this stuff down here, and it's dry. So I'm going to take some of my original gray mix and wipe it out. Does that make sense to everybody? So you can use it as an eraser.
And it matches because it's the same color.
It matches because it's the same color. Yep. Or you can also use it to gray off whatever it is that you really gray it off. So if I don't like the background that much, I can go in, that's still kind of wet. Now the problem with acrylic is if you are painting wet on wet, it will lift it off. So you've got to make sure that whatever you're painting on top of is dry.
So this way you can take a mulligan.
I'm not sure what that means.
You can get a second go at it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can change it over and over as many times as you want. So, how am I doing on time? Okay. Let me show you a couple more things, and then I'm going to make it night for you. We also use a hair dryer to dry things off with. We've had some power issues in here lately, so I don't have my hair dryer. But you can see I've done kind of an outline of some of the feathers here. What I'm going to do is use some of the transparent raw umber. And I'm going to paint in the same direction that the feathers are going in. And I'm just adding some color to some of the feathers. I'm painting over the light that I put in there. So every time I do that, I'll strengthen it up a little bit. Now I'm going to use a little of the opaque raw umber. That's still a little wet, so. And add some more color to it as well. So I'll go back and forth with the darks and the lights until I'm happy with what I've gotten in here. And again, because it's transparent, you can see right through it. We don't use any blacks at all. It's just Payne's gray, and then the darker mix would be burnt umber and ultramarine and Payne's. Okay, I'm gonna finish this by turning it into night. Do you guys want to see that?
Yeah. Don't mess it up.
Let's do a little bit more here. Okay, I'm gonna make the night color. Give me a second.
I just thought you were going to turn the lights off.
Okay, I'm trying to find one of my colors here. Just give me a second. The problem is John would always steal my paintings or steal my paints. That's a good excuse.
Yeah, blame it on John.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
the husband never puts anything away. I see how it works.
I'm gonna have to go look and see if he's got my color.
Marcy Berry says that she has 80,000 additional questions.
Okay.
She's going to itemize them and send them to you in a PDF file. You can go through them one at a time.
Okay. That sounds good. Okay, let me show you this last thing. Again, it's not a very finished piece, but at least you can see how we started. I'm using, this is a secret, transparent Viridian. It's got to be transparent. If it's not, it won't work. So transparent Viridian and ultramarine and a big brush. So I mix the two together. Now, in different parts of the world, night is different colors. It could be green, it could be more blue in certain areas. So in this case, it's going to be a little on the greenish blue side. So I mix these two together. Gotta make sure that everything is dry. And then you put a layer of nighttime in.
Magic.
Magic. So now what I would do in this case, if I was going to continue with this piece, is I would work more on the owl, do more detail on the owl, more feather detail. Then I would work on the branch. Then I'd cover it again with the night color. And every time you do that, you're making what's underneath it softer and softer. And then you can come and bring the highlights out again. But you can make as many different nightshades as dark as you want or as light as you want. But it has to be the transparent viridian and ultramarine to get the night color. That making sense?
Yep.
Right. I'll work on this piece a little bit more and let you guys see it later on. I don't want you to sit around and watch paint dry. So I'll work it up a little bit more and then give it to David so that he can show everybody. Anybody have any questions? I don't want to go over my time limit.
Don't forget to unmute yourself to talk so we don't have to ask her.
Yeah, if you have a question, just press down on the space bar or unmute yourself. Well, Susie, I want to thank you for letting us take up a good part of your day here and for showing us around your workspace there and how you work and just sharing your space with us today.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it. And I'll work on this piece for you guys so it's a little bit more finished, but I was just concerned about the time for you. So thank you for your patience and great questions.
All right, Susie. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thanks, Susie.
Bye.
Thanks, Susie. Bye, guys.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. Anthony.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.